I am Reynaldo Julio Mendez, and today we are discussing about the wonders of Raspberry Pi. So what is Raspberry Pi? The Raspberry Pi is a low-cost, credit card-sized computer that plugs into a computer monitor or TV and uses a standard keyboard and mouse. It is a capable little device that enables people of all ages to explore computing and to learn how to program in languages like Scratch and Python. It's capable of doing everything you'd expect a desktop computer to do, from browsing the internet and playing high-definition video to making spreadsheets, word processing, and playing games. History. Raspberry Pi is a credit card-sized computer designed and manufactured in the UK with the initial intentions of providing a cheap computing device for education. Since its release, however, it has grown far beyond the sphere of academia. Its origins can be found in the University of Cambridge's computer laboratory in 2006. Computer scientist Ben Upton, along with Rob Mullins, Jack Lang, and Alan Mycroft, were concerned that incoming computing graduate students had grown divorced from the technical aspects of computing. This was largely due to the school syllabuses that placed an emphasis on using computers rather than understanding them. Off the back of this initial concern, the Raspberry Pi Foundation was formed over the next 6 years. The team worked on developing a cheap and accessible device that would help schools to teach concepts such as programming, thus students closer to understanding how computing works. The Raspberry Pi's initial commercial release was in February 2012. Since then, the board has gone through a number of revisions and has been available in two models, those models being Model A and Model B. The, the, model, the Model A device is cheaper and simpler of the two computers, and the Model B is more powerful, including support for Ethernet connectivity. Our first model is Raspberry Pi B, released on February 15, 2012. It has a price of $35. It has a quad-core 1.2 GHz Broadcom BCM 2837 64-bit CPU. It has a 1 GB RAM, a BCM 43438 wireless LAN and Bluetooth Low Energy BLE on board, 100 base Internet, 40-pin extended GPIO, 4 USB 2 ports, 4-pole stereo output and composite video port, full-size HDMI, CSI camera port for connecting a Raspberry Pi camera, DSI display port for connecting a Raspberry Pi touchscreen display, microSD port for loading your operating system and storing data. Upgraded switch to micro USB power source up to 2.5A. Raspberry Pi A+, released on November 10, 2014. It has a price of $35. It has a processor Broadcom BCM 2837B0 Cortex A5 364-bit system on chip at 1.4 GHz. Memory about 512 megabytes LPDDR2 SDRAM. It has a 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz IEEE 802.11.b GNAC wireless LAN Bluetooth 4.2 BLE for connectivity. It has an extended 40-pin GPIO header. Video and sound is 1 by full-size HDMI. MPI DSI DisplayPort, MIPI CSI DisplayPort, 4-pole stereo output and composite video port. Multimedia is H.264 MPEG-4 decode, 1080p by 30, H.264 encode, 1080p by 30, OpenGLES 1.1 and 2.0 graphics. HD card support, microSD for format loading, operating system and data storage. Input power 5 volts by 2.5A DC via micro USB connector, 5 volts DC via GPIO header. Raspberry Pi 2, released on February 1, 2015. It has a price of $35. CPU Broadcom BCM 2836 900 MHz quad-core ARM Cortex A7 processor, 1 GB of SD RAM, 4 USB 2.0 ports, 10 by 100 megabit by second Ethernet. Power ratings are 600 mAh 3.0 watts and power source is 5 volts micro USB. Raspberry Pi Zero, released on November 30, 2015, price range of $5. Specs are 1 GHz single core CPU, 512 megabytes of RAM, mini HDMI port, micro USB OTG port, micro USB power, HAT compatible 40-pin header, composite video and reset headers, CSI camera connector 1.3 volts only. Raspberry Pi 3, released on February 29, 2016. It has a price of $35 and its specs are a Broadcom BCM 2837 with a CPU 4X ARM Cortex A53 with 1.2 GHz, GPU Broadcom Video Core 4 with a RAM of 1 GB LPDDR2 900 MHz. Networking is 10 by 100 Ethernet 2.4 GHz 802.11 and wireless. Bluetooth is a 4.1 classic Bluetooth low energy. Storages are micro SD and it has a GPIO 40-pin header populated. Its ports are HDMI 3.5mm analog audio video jack, 4x USB 2.0, Ethernet, camera serial interface, and display serial interface. Raspberry Pi Zero W, released on February 28, 2017, a price range of $10. It has a 802.11 BGN wireless LAN, Bluetooth 4.1, Bluetooth low energy. Like the Pi Zero, it also has 1 GHz single core CPU, a 512 MB RAM, mini HDMI and USB on the go ports, micro USB power, HAT compatible 40-pin header, composite video and reset headers, and a CSI camera connector. Raspberry Pi Zero WH, released on January 12, 2018, it has a price range of $15. It has a processor of BCM 2835 system on chip. It has a clock speed of 1 GHz, a RAM of 512 MB, a built-in wireless BCM 43143, Wi-Fi plus Bluetooth 4.1 plus Bluetooth low energy, same as Raspberry Pi 3. It has a memory, micro SD, display and audio, mini HDMI, USB port, 1 micro B USB for data. Power input is 1 micro B USB. Camera interfaces are CSI camera connector that needs adapter cable of a 0.5mm pitch-to-pitch CSI. GPIO pre-soldered 40-pin GPIO connector compatible with Raspberry Pi Zero version 1.3 and Raspberry Pi 3. Compatibility of GPIO compatible with existing HAT add-ons. Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, released on March 14, 2018. It has a price of $35. Broadcom BCM 2837B0 Cortex A53 64-bit system on chip, 1.4 GHz. It has a 1 GB LPDDR2 SD RAM, a 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz IEEE 802.11b GN AC wireless LAN with a Bluetooth 4.4 Gigabit Ethernet over USB 2.0 extended 40-pin GPIO header, full-size HDMI, 4 USB 2.0 ports, CSI camera port for connecting a Raspberry Pi camera, DSI camera port for connecting a Raspberry Pi touchscreen display, 4-pole stereo output, and composite video port, a micro SD port for loading your operating systems and storing data, a 5V by 2.5A DC power output, a power over Ethernet support. Raspberry Pi 3 Model A Plus, released on November 15, 2018. It has a price of $25. Its specs are a Broadcom BCM2837B0 Cortex-A53 64-bit system on chip at 1.4 GHz, a 512 MB LPDDR2 SD RAM, a 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz IEEE 802.11 BGN AC wireless LAN Bluetooth 4.2, extended 40-pin GPIO header, full size HDMI, single USB 2.0 ports, CSI camera port for connecting a Raspberry Pi camera module, a DSI display port for connecting a Raspberry Pi touch display, 4-pole stereo output, and composite video port, micro SD port for loading your operating system and storing your data, a 5V by 2.5A DC power input. What are the applications of Raspberry Pi? The Raspberry Pi boards are used in many applications like media streamer, arcade machine, tablet computer, home automation, computer, internet radio, controlling robots, cosmic computer, hunting for meteorites, coffee, and also in Raspberry Pi based projects. And last, and certainly not the least, is the Raspberry Pi 4. Released on June 24, 2019, it has a price of $35. Its specs are a Broadcom PCM2711 quad-core Cortex-A72 64-bit system on chip at 1.5 GHz. It has a 1 GB, 2 GB, or 4 GB LPDDR4 3200 SD RAM depending on your model. It has a 2.4 GHz and a 5.0 GHz IEEE 802.11 AC wireless Bluetooth 5.0. It has a gigabit Ethernet, two USB 3.0 ports, two USB 2.0 ports, a Raspberry Pi standard 40-pin GPIO header, fully backwards compatible with previous boards, a 2x micro HDMI ports up to 4KP60 supported, 2-lane MIPI DSI display port, 2-lane MIPI CSI camera port, and a 4-pole stereo audio and composite video port. It has a H.265 4KP60 decode, H.264 1080p 60 decode, 1080p 30 encode, an OpenGL-ES 3.0 graphics, micro SD card slot for loading operating system and data storage, 5 volts DC via USB-C connector, a 5 volts DC via GPIO header, power over Ethernet enabled, and operating with an operating temperature of 0 to 50 degrees Celsius ambient. This is my brief report on the Raspberry Pi and its model and background. Thank you and have a good day. Subscribe below.